So this is going to be the Montana What You Need to Know video for your deer and elk application. So I'm going to start off by saying this. Montana is definitely one of the most complicated and confusing Western hunting states there is. And I don't know why they need to make it so complicated, but it is what it is. So that's why we do these videos, and hopefully it helps you out. But as I want to say always, this is just a general overview. This is basically the most common questions about Montana that we get every single year. So we'll try to explain in this video, but for more information, check out everything we have on GOHUNT. You know, through Insider membership, if you're not a member, sign up for Insider membership. You get access to all of our research tools to explain this even further. You know, we have our Montana deer and elk application strategy article, which is going to go super in depth on all these topics to a greater degree than I can cover here in a video. Also have a Montana state profile, which you can check out, learn all the ins and outs of how the draw works, and then you got filtering and draws to try to actually find some hunting opportunities. Well, let's jump in because Montana's application deadline is April 1st, 2025 at 11:45 p.m. Mountain Time. So this is going to be for general season Montana big game combo licenses, and also if you're trying to get a permit tag in Montana for some of those like special draw, limited entry style hunts, that deadline's all the same. It's all one application. You have to do it by April 1st, 2025 by 11:45 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll jump right into differences in Montana's draw system. And I think this is where a lot of people get really, really confused. In a way, you can think of Montana having like two different phases to the draw. You don't have to jump into both of them if you don't want to, but there's two different ways. I think that's why people get really confused. The first phase of the draw is the draw for Montana's big game combination licenses. So these are the ones that are for deer and elk, and these use a preference point system. And again, this is only for, the big game combination license is only for non-residents. So that's why some people get really confused about it. Residents don't have to worry about this, but non-residents do. You have to draw a combination license before you can move on to the second part of the draw, which is your limited entry style draw. So that's going to be for the permit areas for deer and elk. So I'll cover it more in depth later, but in order to get into the second phase of the draw, the bonus point side of it, I should mention that too. The second phase uses the bonus point. First phase uses the preference point. So in order to get into a chance to even draw a limited entry special draw that utilizes bonus points, you first have to draw one of the three Montana big game combination licenses. So I'm going to be jumping around a lot because I think in Montana you have to jump around and explain little bits here, go really in depth for a while, and then kind of come back to explain that. So I will touch on that whole confusing thing I just mentioned before, but just realize that Montana utilizes two different point systems for deer and elk: preference points and then bonus points. And again, I'll explain that here in a little bit. The three big game combination licenses in Montana are going to be your deer combination license, your elk combination license, and then your big game combination license. Sounds confusing again. Again, we'll explain it here real quick. Deer combo, just going to be your deer tag in Montana. There's going to be a bunch of other stuff on top of it, fishing license, upland, game bird, and all that stuff. But for the simple reasons, if you want to go hunting big game in Montana, so understand we're going to simplify it. So the deer combination is going to be your deer combo license, which is basically your general deer license. All right. Elk combo is going to be your elk license. That's going to be your general season elk license. The big game combo, the only reason it separates this out is you're going to get a deer tag and an elk tag. So again, that's going to be your general deer and general elk. You get those together and you can go hunt deer and you can hunt elk on any of the general season units. Fees for those. So here's where Montana likes to throw a curve at everyone for non-residents. Fees in Montana are actually pretty steep and expensive compared to a lot of other Western states. Probably the only one that's a little bit higher might be, Wyoming. I'm sure there's going to be some other ones I'm not thinking of the top of my head right now. But big game combination license, again, this is one that has a deer and elk. It's going to be $1,278. Deer combo $744, and then the elk combo is $1,078. And the big thing too about Montana, you pay everything up front. So you're going to have to front that money. But the nice thing about Montana, unlike, I'll throw some other state on the bus here for a second, Wyoming, Montana is going to give you your results within usually 2 weeks after the draw. So you're not going to be fronting a bunch of money, and then the state, like, again, Wyoming, will hold your money for like 4 months before you actually get your draw results. So April 1st deadline, typically in Montana, you'll know your results around the 14th or 15th of April. So it's really nice that you'll get your refunds back early if you do apply. And typically then you might see a refund in Montana by, end of April timeframe, early May. So you get it pretty quick, which is really, really nice. Another thing I should mention too is that all license purchases and applications are final. You cannot make any changes or have them withdrawn. So if you're going to throw your name out there in one of these apps, keep in mind that can't make any changes or withdraw your application. Now let's jump into kind of diving in and explaining several of these different parts of Montana a little more in depth. So I'm going to jump into the general combination licenses. So again, it's your deer, elk, or your big game combination. If you're successful at drawing one of those general combination licenses, you're basically allowed to hunt any of the general season hunt districts in the state of Montana, which is pretty much the entire state, except for some of those permit areas. So easy way to do this, jump on GoHunt, go to filtering. You can filter out by all these opportunities and see, all the different hunt districts you can hunt in Montana, which is a giant amount. So deer have their own, elk have their own, a lot of them are the same. So just keep in mind to check out which ones you're planning on hunting. And then the great thing too about the combination license in Montana, I'll get through this later on the season dates, but it does allow you to hunt a giant amount of the season. You can purchase a archery bow and arrow license to hunt the archery season in Montana, and then also come back later and hunt the rifle. So basically when you get a combination license in Montana, it is a rifle tag in a sense, and then you just have to add on the bow and arrow license to hunt the archery season. The nice thing too about that general license in Montana is you can hunt, again, the entire state. So you can bounce around. You can go to unit in western Montana for mule deer, and then later on decide you want to drive 6 hours and go to eastern Montana to hunt deer. You can do that, and you can bounce around on the general tag, which makes a really great option for people who want to explore and want to check out new country. But keep in mind though, when it comes to deer, you can hunt on a general combination deer tag. You can hunt mule deer or whitetail on that tag. But keep in mind, some hunt districts have different rules and regulations, only mule deer this time of year, and then afterwards it's just whitetail only. So double and triple check the regulations to make sure where you're hunting, you can actually take a mule deer buck during these seasons, because again, some hunt districts have different regulations and different season dates for mule deer. But in a sense, you can hunt either mule deer or whitetail on your general season deer tag. And as I mentioned earlier too, this preference point side we talked about, this is only for non-residents. So residents can purchase these, general season deer and elk tags over the counter. They don't have a point system for it, but non-residents do, and it's called their preference point system. And again, those are only for that non-resident combination license. And then when it comes to allocating of the tags for those general combination, this is where it gets really important to know how you're going to structure your draw strategy in Montana. The Montana code establishes that 75% of all the non-resident combination licenses go to people with the most preference points, and 25% go to people or awarded to people who have not purchased preference points. So essentially, Montana in the preference point system, you're awarded, for having more points. So the people who have the most points are going to get the permits. People who don't are typically not, but you do have that 25% if you do not purchase a preference point. You'll be entered in that side of it. Basically, what this goes into, it's a really confusing system, because if you look right now at GoHunt, at draw odds, you want to try to pick up a non-resident combination tag, one of the general tags for deer, elk, or big game combo, you'll see that at 0 points, you have a higher draw odds, better chance of drawing a tag than you do at 1. Essentially for the elk and big game combo, at 1 point, you have 0% chance to draw. But at 0 points, you have a really high chance to draw. And then again, at like 2 points and 3 points, 2 points are almost guaranteed, 3 are pretty much guaranteed for sure, and you can't have more than 3 preference points in Montana. So why this is important is you need to figure out how you're going to structure your draw, because during Montana, you have the option at the time of applying to purchase a preference point. So if you purchase your preference point at the time you're applying and you have 0 right now, that means you're going to draw with 1 point. So that means you're not going to draw this year because you're going to have, 0% odds. So it's a gamble if you want to stay at 0 points and risk it for high chance to draw. But keep in mind then, if you do apply in the draw and elect not to purchase a preference point at the time you apply, you cannot purchase a preference point later on in the summer during the points only period. So again, this is super, super confusing, but it's going to make sense. Again, I'm going to try to dive in a little further, but I'm really glad finally this year in Montana's 2025 hunting regulations, that's why I waited to get this video out there to see if they actually tried to explain some things for people. Because we've been explaining that for a long time and people don't understand how it works or if it's actually true, and question our odds and whatnot. But this year finally Montana explained in the regulations book how that actually works, and showcase that, yeah, at 0 points you have better odds than you do at 1 point, and at 2 and 3 you're pretty much guaranteed a tag. So look at that, because that's going to impact your strategy of do you want to risk it and apply at 0, or go in at 1 and then essentially don't have an opportunity to hunt, but then it's going to pretty much guarantee you a hunt the year after. So again, you'll see how that strategy is going to play off. All right, one little caveat I want to throw in there too is I mentioned the elk combo and the big game combo. Applying at 0 points, or applying at 1 point, you pretty much do not have a chance to draw. That is a little bit different in the deer combo. So if you just want a deer tag, don't care about elk hunting in Montana at all, and you want to apply for the deer combo, which is your deer general license, at 1 point, you actually do have a decent chance to draw. This just goes again to how many people are actually using their preference points for deer only. And I should mention too that when you do get a preference point in Montana, it's not like a preference point for deer combo, preference point for elk combo, and a preference point for big game combo. That preference point is good for one of the 3 options in a sense. So you just have one preference point, 2 or 3, and you can use it, in one of those 3 options. All right, so now I want to go through several different strategies. There's basically 3 different strategies you can go through when trying to get a general season deer or elk tag in Montana. Again, that's your general season combination license of the Montana. There is kind of a 4th option, but it really doesn't apply to very many people at all. But I will talk about a 4th option too. So these 3 options are pretty much what you can do in Montana if you're trying to hunt right now in Montana or trying to build a little plan to hunt Montana in the future on a general season tag, or you're trying to pick up a general season tag so that you can apply for one of those limited entry hunts. So the 3 strategies are, I'm going to stare at my screen here to read it, so make sure I get it exactly clear because Montana is clear as mud on everything they do. And these are like kind of the 3 strategies that I've developed over the years, and I think a lot of people benefit from these. Strategy number 1 is to elect to not purchase a preference point. So let's say you have 0 points right now. You're going to elect to not purchase a preference point at the time of the drawing. So you apply with 0 points and basically risk it, as you'll not be able to purchase a preference point later on in the summer during the point-only period. But you'll have decent odds right now to draw a general season license at 0 points. And the reason I say risk it is because then the next year you're going to have to repeat the same thing again. You'll be back at 0. Do you like to go 1, or do you stay at 0 again? So it's a game you kind of will have to play with yourself on what you want to figure what you want to do. So that's option 1. Option number 2 is to, you're going into the draw at 0 again, but you will elect this time to purchase a preference point. So now you apply with 1, and you probably won't draw, especially for the elk combo and the big game combo. But that way though, next year, so you already have 1, we did not draw this year in 2025, but next year going into 2026, we elect to purchase that preference point again. So now we'll go in at 2 preference points. So most likely we will draw a tag. So this method right here is kind of setting yourself up for the future to try to draw a permit, or a hunting license, I mean. Option 3, do not apply for deer or elk in the main draw if you have 0 points. The reason why is typically when you apply in the main draw and don't draw, it's actually a little bit more expensive than going into the points only period. So what you'll do here then, do not apply for deer or elk in the main draw. You will purchase your preference point in the summer draw. That way, the next year, you'll also be able to purchase the preference point again, like in option 2, and then be able to go in with 2 points. So again, do not apply right now. Purchase a point in the summer. We have 1 preference point in 2025. 2026 draw comes up. We still have that 1 point from last year. Now we will elect to purchase a preference point in the 2026 draw. So now we're going in with 2 points. So that's the way to do it. And again, the reason why you would maybe do that is because, again, those preference points are, just a little bit cheaper doing it this way than trying to do it with the refund and all that stuff. So there's an option there, you could do that. And then the 4th method is if you're going to be applying with an outfitter in Montana. So if you apply with an outfitter in Montana and are going to go on a guided hunt, you have to actually go on a guided hunt with them. You can't just do this option and then go hunt on your own. But you can actually go in and purchase 2 preference points in the same year for your general season deer and elk tags. So you purchase 2 points at the time of applying. If you have 0 right now and you decide you want to go on an outfitted hunt, so you will purchase your 2 points, then you will, in a sense, have a lot higher chance to draw because you have a decent chance at 0, you have no chance at 1, but at 2, you're almost guaranteed a general season license. So those are kind of the 3-ish, 4 ways to go about thinking about how to draw a combination license. But again, there's a risk factor to it. Do you risk going in at 0 and then you're kind of screwed for the next year on trying to decide because you're back to 0 again? Or do you like to just cop up this year as you're not going to draw, purchase a point, and then go through next year? So again, that is probably really, really confusing, Hope it's kind of clear. Yeah, this is why I definitely suggest to have an insider membership, read these app strategies, because again, that's going to be explained fully right there, and you'll be able to read it all the time and check it out. And keep in mind also that in Montana, you can't fully bank preference points, as they will purge your preference points every other year unless you apply. Again, now this is another confusing part of Montana. We should just title this like Montana is super confusing, and this is the most important video you need to watch, because that's kind of what it is. So example for this, if you purchase a point in 2024, so let's say you purchased a point last year during the summer, so now you have 1 point, and you don't apply this year in 2025, you're like, oh, I don't really want to draw this year because I have something going on. Well, Montana is going to revert your points back to 0 because you did not apply this year. So you really need to plan ahead when it comes to Montana. This is why I highly recommend everyone check out some of the tools. Again, keep attention to the tools on Insider, but that's why you probably want to jump into our Hunt Planner and start playing around, start writing some of these notes down, like, okay, if I apply this year, about a point in 2024, I have to then apply in 2025, otherwise I'm going to lose my points. And it might not seem like a big deal to a lot of people, but that's $100 you just wasted, and that's 2 years off your life you just wasted, because now you're going to have to start back over again, or technically 3 years, to try to actually draw a permit again in Montana for a general season tag. So consider all that. Think about your strategies long and hard for how you're going to do things, because it will pay off in the long run if you're trying to actually pick up one of these general season tags. Now we're going to jump into basically the second portion of the draw. Like I said, the second portion of the draw is going to be for those limited entry or special draw hunts in Montana. These are going to be your permit hunts. So essentially what the second part of the draw is a add-on to your general season license. It does not allow you to take 2 elk in 1 year or 2 mule deer in 1 year. It's basically an add-on to go into a restricted, in a sense, unit that typically might be managed for higher quality animals or more harvest success, or it's going to limit the permits for both residents and non-residents, because it's a hard tag to get, so you might have a more quality experience. And sometimes that equals, really great trophy potential. Other times it's a hunt that the state's just using to kind of manage the population, so it actually might not be a better hunt than a general season opportunity. But again, you're going to probably have less people in the field because those permit numbers are restricted for both residents and non-residents. So again, not a second tag. That's the biggest confusing part. And keep in mind that Montana is definitely an opportunity state. So a lot of these even limited entry are not typically the same as limited entry in other states. Like, they're still great hunt. There's still going to be giant bucks and bulls killed every year in Montana. So I'm not saying you're not going to be able to shoot a giant, but just keep in mind the trophy potential is not as high as other states. And then in this second portion of the draw for the limited entry special draw hunts in Montana, they utilize a bonus point system. So basically it's totally different than your preference point system I just explained before. And the preference point system, again, 75% goes to the people with most points and 25% are reserved to people with no points. The bonus point system in Montana is basically, there's no guarantee that you'll ever draw a permit, but so it's essentially a random draw that is weighted by bonus points, and they square your points. All right, again, clear as mud. So basically, if you have 5 points, square 5 points, you'll have 25 points, plus your current year's bonus point, you'll have 1 point, so you have 26 chances going into the draw. So why I said you never are going to really guaranteed a chance to draw in the bonus point system is you could have 18 points and you have decent odds, but there could be a lot of people who have 4, 5, 1, 0 points and still draw. Yes, they'll have a very less chance to draw than you will, but they still have a chance to draw, which is kind of nice in that system. You never know where you're going to draw a tag, but obviously the more times you keep building up bonus points every single year in Montana, the potentially higher chances you will have to draw, because they do square it and reward you for longevity in the state of Montana. So you could get lucky and draw a tag every year once you draw, again, your combination tag. When we talk about permit allocation on this side of things, all non-residents in Montana are basically, as a lot of states are going to right now, the 90-10 split. Montana residents are limited to, but not guaranteed, 10% of overall drawing quota for one of those opportunities. So that means if you apply for a deer permit in a hunt district with 100 permits, you can only draw up to, but not guaranteed, 10 permits. There is some exceptions for the 10% rule for non-residents, and it's not going to apply all the time, but all residents who apply for a certain hunt code in Montana are successful in drawing, and then that means non-residents may actually be allocated more than the 10%, but again, it doesn't happen very often, but just want to throw that out there. Another consideration too that you need to think about when you want to apply for some of these limited entry special draw areas in Montana, usually the area that you're going to apply for is you're locked in for that unit or hunt district only, and you cannot bounce around to some of those general season hunt districts. So the only reason that doesn't happen is a general season license may be used to hunt in any open district during dates outside of that identified on your actual permit. So in a sense, you could hunt Montana's, heritage muzzleloader season if you did draw a permit elk tag in a special area. But after those, dates are over, you could go into that December season and hunt, on the restricted muzzy hunt on some general season hunts. For elk and deer, that's pretty much the case. You draw a permit tag for a mule deer, you can only hunt that specific unit you drew. You cannot hunt one of the general season hunt districts. But you could hunt a whitetail deer on general season hunts. So again, another confusing side there. But for the most part, if you draw a mule deer permit, you're going to probably want to be hunting that mule deer permit area only. And now, for my favorite time of this video, we're going to talk about confusion around Montana, because again, I just mentioned you have phase 1 of the draw and you have kind of like phase 2 of the draw. So if you want to, in Montana, all you care about is a permit area. You want to hunt the best of the best areas, quote unquote, best of the best areas in Montana. You do not care to hunt a general season deer or elk tag at all. The confusing side is you must draw a combination license in Montana before you're even eligible to draw one of the limit entry permits. So you need to draw one of the 3 combo license. Then if successful, your app will move into the next portion, which is the limit entry that uses your bonus points. This is why in Montana, it is essential that you carry some preference points and you carry out a lot of bonus points. Because if you don't draw the combination license that year, but let's say you had a lot of points for bonus points and you pretty much were a shoe-in to draw the bonus point tag, you essentially will not draw that bonus point hunt because you didn't draw the combo tag. So instantly, your app didn't even be considered for the limited entry special draw permit. Case in point, I'm gonna use an example here. My brother drew a really good hunt district in Montana in 2020. All right, he drew with like 4 or 5 bonus points. So that year he drew the combo tag, and then automatically he got put into the bonus point side to get his permit tag. He drew it. It's one of the better hunt districts in Montana for rifle permit. I also put in for that same limit entry hunt district that year. I have way more points than him, and if I would have drawn my combo tag, I pretty much had 80-some% chance to draw the limit entry elk permit. But because I did not draw the combo tag, I automatically didn't get a chance to draw. Even though I had all the points in the world to draw, I had way over than what everyone else had been applying for. I sought to move units because I just wanted an opportunity to try to draw a tag. So because of that, we couldn't hunt elk together, even though I had the required points on the bonus point side, but because I didn't draw the general season non-resident combination license, was not eligible to draw one of those limit entry style hunts. So that is the downside of Montana system, and why it's also very confusing, because you do need to consider both. I've had a lot of people, send me messages like, "Hey, I just want to hunt, Eastern Montana for elk. What do I need to do?" I just need to build up bonus points. Well, you kind of do, but you also need to consider this other side of it too, this preference point thing. This is basically what I've talked about before, where I have a little bit of beef with Montana, and sure, you can set up your rules any single way you want. I used to be a resident of Montana, so I know how it works on the resident side and the great benefit that they give to residents, which they should because they live in the state all the time. But let's say you're like me right now, you're a few points off of max for limit entry elk hunt. All right, I'm technically only eligible to draw that permit tag for the limit entry elk hunt pretty much every other year. So whenever I draw my combination license, then I'm actually able to draw that limit entry. So in a sense, even though draw odds are X for bonus point opportunities, I take it as a little bit less in that category because I have to have the combo tag to get the limit entry, and if I don't draw the combo, I can't go for that. So even though I have the points to do it, I could probably draw it. Like a resident can apply for limit entry hunts every single year in Montana. I have to basically wait every other year, or I can try to risk it and apply at 0 without buying a preference point, to maybe then get my combo tag to then get eligible for limit entry. So it's a system that really doesn't award a non-resident when they're trying to apply for one of those limit entry bonus point hunts, because I can only theoretically get into the draw to try to draw that every other year, and then I can't play like, oh, apps are going up, apps are going down, I'm gonna switch units to try to potentially get one because I don't have a chance to apply for a limit entry hunt every single year. That's just a downside, not really complaining, because again, they can do whatever they want, but kind of am just suggesting I wish that there could be a way to fix that, because I don't want a general season elk tag in Montana. I have a lot of points. I want to try to draw one of the really good elk hunts, and because of their system, it is what it is, but I just can't apply for it every single year. Even though I do apply for it, I'm not eligible to draw it every single year. Again, clear as mud, right? Now we're gonna jump into, we mentioned it before, but Montana does have a point purchase period. And again, the only way you can purchase points in Montana is if you do not apply in the main draw. All right, so it's not an opportunity to purchase 2 points in 1 year. This is a separate points only purchase period that you should be aware of. If you all of a sudden, let's say you missed the draw and now your buddy's in, you guys want to go chase elk in Montana one year, you can actually purchase points during the summer that will then be used on the next year's draw. The bonus point purchase period every year, it's July 1st to September 30th in Montana. The cost is $25 for deer, elk, and antelope for bonus point. And even though we're not talking about sheep, moose, goat here, it's $75 for moose, sheep, mountain goat bonus points. So that's the bonus point purchase period, July 1st to September 30th. The preference point purchase period in Montana, again, preference points are for your combination licenses. That's different. So that is July 1st through December 31st. So it gives you a little bit of extra time to decide if you want to purchase a preference point in Montana. And that fee is $100. And again, if you're doing an outfitted thing, you can buy 2 of them later on. So actually can help you benefit there. $100 is a pretty steep cost for a preference point, but if you want to hunt, probably worth to shoot out there. That way the next year's app, you'll go in basically with 2 because you can buy it again, like I explained earlier, buy another point during the main draw. Next big thing that we always get questions about in Montana is party apps. So party app is basically a way that you will apply with a bunch of your friends, and then if one of you guys draw, you all draw. So that's kind of cool about it. Montana, the maximum limit for a party app is 5. What a party app is not, which is sometimes what you see in like Midwest states or East Coast states, is you still only are able to shoot your own animal. You can't shoot other people's animal. You all have a tag, but you have to shoot your own animal on that hunt. It's not like you go on the hunt and you can shoot other buddies' animals. And the big caveat too, when you're doing a party app, all party members must elect the same opportunity type and basically the same bonus point or preference point participation. So all of them have to say, yes, I'm gonna buy a bonus point, or all of them have to say yes to buy a preference point, or the opposite, they could all say no. So you have to make sure everyone is set up the same way. And also party apps in Montana do get treated differently again on the preference point side and the bonus point side. Yeah, a lot of confusing things here. So on the non-resident combo side, so again, your deer, elk, and big game combo license in Montana, preference points for party applications are averaged of their individual preference points and then rounded to the 3rd decimal point. And I have an example here which we'll hopefully put up on the screen, makes it really easy. So I just took 5 hunters, because again, you can have a max of 5 hunters who apply as a party in Montana, and a preference point example, and then what their average points round to the 3rd decimal will look like. So let's say you have hunter 1 has 1 point, hunter 2 has 1 point, hunter 3 has 2 points, hunter 4 has 2 points, and hunter 5 has 1 point. So that party app right there would average out to 1.4 preference points. So if you have a party with that and you average out to 1.4, again, this is why looking at draw odds is very, very essential, especially how Montana sets up its combination draw. These hunters who have 1.4 points going into the draw, they would not draw a combination license, because at 1 point, you do not have a chance to draw in Montana. So you probably want to pick and choose your buddies very, very well in Montana, because if you have all these people who are applying at 1 and it brings your average down to 1.4 instead of an average at least up to 2 points and above, you guys aren't going to draw that year. So even though some of these people who would apply by themselves, like hunter 3 and hunter 4 in this example, they each had 2 points, they could have party app together, they would average out to 2 points, and they would have drawn a tag. So it's things to consider in Montana again, or how to work the system to your advantage and actually draw all your friends to get tags. So just think about that when you're trying to apply with the party. Now the bonus point side, you apply as a party for the bonus point limited entry style hunts. Average of group points, it will be rounded to the nearest whole number. So this is kind of a benefit of applying for a party again. Everyone's going to permit, and it's going to be rounded up to the nearest whole number. So if you guys average out, 1.7 points or whatever for your bonus point side, you'll be rounded up, which is, kind of a cool thing, rounded to the nearest whole number. And another big thing too is Montana will not over allocate for those limited entry style hunts. So keep that in mind. If you're applying with 5 and you're applying for a really tough hunt, probably kind of in a way hurting your chances of drawing, because there's only a few permits available. They'll not over allocate to give you guys all hunting permits. So keep that in mind. Season dates. Let's touch season dates here really quickly, just basically because I just want to emphasize here that for people who want to go hunt Montana, it is a really good state to go, because Montana is very generous on their season dates. You basically get 6 weeks for archery, you get 5 weeks for rifle, and then you get 9 days for that heritage muzzleloader only season. So season dates this year, September 6th to October 19th for the archery, deer, and elk. You have October 25th to November 30th for your general season rifle, deer, and elk hunts. And then that heritage muzzleloader season is December 13th to December 21st. So yeah, a lot of time to go hunting. And again, if you want to, basically Montana, like I said earlier, you draw that, basically draw a rifle permit most of the time, and then you can add on that bow and arrow license. And keep in mind that you do not have to pick a season in Montana too. If you draw one of those general season tags, you can hunt the archery hunt you're an elk hunter and want to hunt the rut, you can then turn around and come back to Montana in late October or November and hunt the rifle hunt. But keep in mind though, some of the, again, rules, regulations are different, and some of the permit side stuff too. There's certain permit hunts in Montana that are archery only and certain permit hunts that are rifle only, so you probably can't, or you won't be able to, double dip and hunt archery and rifle. So keep all that stuff in mind again when you are applying. Big thing now, we get to the end of this long video. Should you apply in the state of Montana? Definitely. There's a lot of talks, the entire video, talk about how confusing it is, but Montana at the end of the day is still a really good state to hunt, especially if it fits in your budget and your time frame to hunt it. It's still a really good state. It's not the best state in terms of trophy potential, and I say that again, and I probably have people commenting, oh, I shot a giant buck last year. Yes, there's a lot of opportunities in Montana to shoot some giant deer, some giant elk. It's just in general, compared to other states, you will have really old age class deer. Like you could have, some 4 points that are 6.5 years old, seven-year-old, and they're going to be 150-inch deer. It's not the trophy potential you would have in other states, but still a really, really fun hunt. The one caveat I will throw out there is like everywhere in the West right now, mule deer numbers in Montana overall are not doing that great. Pulled up some numbers here again, and again, you want to check out these numbers, look at our application strategy articles. I break down all the graphics of, the last I think it's 15, 20 years of Montana in terms of mule deer populations and elk populations, but I'm just gonna read them off for you right now. Montana's current mule deer population estimate sits at 249,157, which is the lowest since 2012. All right, so Montana mule deer population as a whole is not doing that great. I will say the peak was in 2017 at 386,000. So yeah, they're just struggling right now. It's kind of what we're dealing with everywhere. There's a lot of different factors for that. Won't get into that right now, but just keep that in mind. I used to describe Montana a lot as nature's arcade. You could go anywhere and see a deer and take a deer. That's kind of the case still, but it is getting a little bit harder to find deer, and there's just, it seems like a lot of younger age class deer running around everywhere. But yeah, so if you're going to go to Montana and expect to find 180-inch deer all over the place, just keep in mind, like I said earlier, it's not that state. Yes, there is anomalies, and yes, you probably could find some of those in some of the general season hunts or even the permit hunts. It's going to be tough. And I will say that too. I think it was like 12 or so years ago, I drew one of the best mule deer tags in the state. I won't mention the unit, but if you know anything about Montana, you know exactly the unit I'm talking about. And I was a resident at the time when I drew it. And while I saw some good deer, I didn't see a deer that I felt like was worthy of, punching that tag on. I didn't see a lot of deer, over 180 inches, and sure, those are great, phenomenal deer. But yeah, just didn't have the quality hunt I was looking for, and was supposedly the best mule deer tag in the state. And yeah, I could have done some things differently in the hunt too, and maybe found some deer, but yeah, just wasn't what I would expect in another hunt in a different state, but still a fun hunt. I'll touch on whitetail deer populations. Looking at roughly 200,000, which is sort of on par with the year-over-year trends every single year. The peak was 235,000 in 2017, so it follows that peak in mule deer as well. And then elk numbers, just touch on very briefly, in 2024, elk numbers were 145,000, which is, if I remember correctly, briefly on par. So that is a complete run through Montana, what you need to know for your deer and elk applications. Went through a lot there. It's very confusing. As I mentioned, you have a lot of different things to consider. You have preference point side, you have bonus point side, you have combination license, you have limited entry. You need a certain license before you can get the certain other one. A lot of different things going on there. So hopefully this will help you out, kind of break down those barriers and trying to figure out different strategies and tactics. As I mentioned earlier, get an insider membership. There's so much information there. Our application strategy articles that we do every single year for Montana deer and elk, packed full of information. We have state profile, packed full of information, articles that's going to break down, okay, what are the exact differences between bonus points and preference points in Montana? That's, again, I mentioned that earlier. That's the biggest, one of the biggest questions we get all the time. I kind of touched on it here, but check out those articles to learn everything you need to know about Montana. The more you guys learn, and even I learn every single day about these things, and I'm, I don't consider myself the best at everything. The more you learn, the more knowledge is power. So do your due diligence to learn everything you can know about all these states, application systems. That way you'll be well informed when you go into the draw, and that way you kind of know, do you have a chance to draw? When will I draw? Is it going to be a 2-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan, that sort of thing, or will I draw this year? So use all that information to the best of your ability, and best of luck in the draw. If you do have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll be the guy reaching out to you. And if you have any specific questions and you're an insider member and you don't want a public little YouTube place, drop those comments on the insider only Montana application strategy articles for deer, elk, and myself Dave, one of the guys of the team, will get back to you there. So best of luck in the draw. Hope I made that video very clear. Apologize if I didn't. Yeah, good luck out there, and I'll catch you next time.